G'day, I'm Guy Allen, and this is Triumph's T150V. And no, it's not a current model, it's a 1974 triple cylinder 750. This was Triumph's superbike way back in the 1970s. You could have this or the parallel twin. This is probably an arguably sweeter ride. It produces a little bit more horsepower. It still vibrates a bit, but not as heavily as the twin. It's got a 5-speed box, so the designation is T150V. Now, somewhat optimistically, that means 150 mph top speed, and V for the 5-speed gearbox. However, the top speed more realistically would be about 200 km/h on a good day. So what's it like to ride? The engine actually is pretty nice. It's got a big spread of power, good mid-range, and it's not too bad up top. It's nothing to write home about. It's about 60 odd horsepower. Gearbox gets a bit stiff once it gets hot, but it is accurate. You tend not to find any false neutrals. You can feel where it was probably in a bit of trouble against the Japanese compared to something like the CB754 Honda. It brakes about the same, it actually handles better. Performance is more or less on a par. There's no question these things have got loads and loads of character, and as a proposition for a classic bike to have in the shed for a weekly ride on a sunny day, it's not too bad. But the catch is, you really do need to do your homework and find a good one. Now this one, I was able to find somebody who knew its history. It had been freshly rebuilt not that long before I bought it, and it had been done properly, so there was relatively little work to be done on it. It's not 100% original. It's got an aftermarket exhaust on it. It's also got slightly different switchgear. That doesn't bother me because both things have been done to make the bike a better ride. But it might bother some people who want an absolutely out of the showroom motorcycle. I reckon one of the things you can do and should do when you buy a classic bike is actually have a precautionary go over it, if you like, with the spanners. Now I got a bit lazy. I actually got an auto electrician to go through the wiring for me, which was worth doing because we found a few little problems. And then I got a mechanic to go over it just to service it, settle it, make sure it was right. Then I could relax and actually ride the thing. The other thing that you'll find is you do need a little bit of patience. Now, this is not a modern motorcycle, it's 30 odd years old, so you need to remember that, for example, the brakes are nowhere near as good as the modern stuff, and in the wet this bike can be a bit tricky because the front disc brake actually needs to be dried out, physically dried out with a preliminary pull on the lever before it will actually work. The first time you hit the lever, if it's really wet, it will just keep on going until it loses its water. So there's a few little things you need to make allowances for. This particular bike, with its combination of English bars and American tank, is a little unusual. It's not terribly practical, I have to say, because the American tank is a bit small to really give you decent distance. It's only got about an 11-litre capacity. That said, this combination was very popular in Australia. The then importer, Frank Mussett in Victoria, for example, ordered these specially in this configuration because that's what the local market dictated. Why own one of these things? Well, it's a bit of a link back to motorcycling's past, to its history, and that has a bit of pleasure associated with it. There's a lot of support in the form of classic clubs and even brand-specific clubs for a bike like this. And there is a lot of pleasure to be gained out of riding something that's got a bit of age to it. A good one will be a real pleasure to own. You'll always have to keep on top of the maintenance. They are extra work compared to a modern motorcycle. A bad one can be a real money pit. So do your research. Do that and you'll have a hell of a time.